Good afternoon. How are you? Well, we're at our next to last sail and talk, and we're heading north. We've been through some wind and overcast skies, but no rain yet, and it's pretty pleasant. And so we're adjusting ourselves mentally to getting back in the grind. Issues that strike me as disturbing continue. One is the United Healthcare CEO shooting. By way of background, there's been a lot of complaint apparently about declining claims, insurance claims, and United Healthcare, according to some, has got the highest declination of claims, if you will. And there's a recent case, so I've read, that where a judge had a case before him involving United Healthcare, and he recused himself, withdrew from the case, in part because he had sought insurance when he had cancer, and it was declined by United Healthcare. So he didn't think he could be fair in considering that case. The insurance industry, at about the same time, their timing is terrible, is talking about putting a time limit on insurance coverage for anesthesia. And if you exceed the time limits, then you're not covered, and it comes out of your own pocket. Whoa. Now, it's very interesting, when considering the motive, sometimes we're looking at Facebook and other social media to determine what was the motive behind some act or other of public nature that is dangerous, death-defying. And in this case, there's a very interesting source of information. Apparently, investigators were able to find both the bullets and the shell casings at the spot where the shooting occurred. Now, apparently they were hoped and intended to be found because there were words cut into these two items that say delay, deny, defend. In other words, rather than grant the claim, an insurance claim, you do those three things: delay, deny, and defend. And so there's a very strong protest against what's happening with insurance. And I take this as a symptom of a nation, ours, yours and mine, that more and more ignores the law. And so if we don't get a grip on how we give order to our relations one to another, in disputes as well as in those things that we do agree, we're going to have more of this kind of violence, because people will find a way to get a remedy. This is not a recommended remedy. We don't want people running around shooting people. And if we don't pay attention to the law, that's what's going to happen. We're going to get messages inscribed on bullets used to assassinate people, and perhaps not just the insurance industry. In terms of the kind of volatile nature of our country right now, the Trump people are saying they're talking about deporting migrants to countries other than those where they came from, including the Bahamas, where I just was, Panama, Grenada, and some others. So they're talking about sending them to nation states, islands, and so forth, where they don't know the people, may not know the language, may not have a job. And how is America going to compel these people to do this? Apparently, Trump is going to do what he does on an individual basis as a national policy. He's going to use the tariffs to coerce these other nation states to take people that he's going to expel from the country. This is one of the most, and there are a number of them, but this is one of the most disastrous things our nation can do. Having been a nation of immigrants, continuing until this day, that we now decide to stop, to criminalize everybody that we haven't figured out a way to have a judicial proceeding to consider whether they may or should stay or not. And we're going forward with this kind of a program. And I think they figure once they're out of the country, what are you going to do to us? Now the remedy is not hard to figure out. If we're serious about our immigration, then we recast the bill. And we get money for the buildings we need. We get money for the judges we need. We get money for the officers we need. And we make it clear. And we send that information to other nation states. We don't go around threatening people to do certain things or will do things to them. This is not an environment that can, go forward, because what it is again, it's replacing the the word of the law and our respect and trust in that, and we're substituting instead the kind of violent energy and purpose that you see anywhere from a street gang up to a dictatorship. And that's what we really have here. Now, there's been an interesting change, and I consider it a favorable one. Neil Gorsuch had relations with a client who's involved in a Utah railway, and it's coming before the Supreme Court. And I believe the argument is, it's imminent. It's this week or next week. And he's stepping back from the case, recusing himself under the new rules that the Supreme Court has taken on. I consider that a plus. I don't know that all will do as well, but this is a step in the right direction. We have two people still on the court who are in an obvious situation in which things should happen. You know, Thomas and Alito lead the pack in that regard. There's an unsettling feeling, and I know reaching offshore to choose examples can be unreliable, but you have to consider the fact that France got rid of its was prepared to get rid of the prime minister, and he resigned, but they had 331 votes out of 577 for him to leave. Now this raises a new thing. It's like dominoes. So the prime minister, who is appointed by the president, which is Macron is now being pushed, and the question is, who could he nominate given who his alliances are with? So that hodgepodge is not yet resolved, and it won't be easily resolved either. The other thing that bothers me, and I've mentioned it before, and I mentioned it at the time in the shoddy way people publicly pushed Biden out of the race. And what I say about shoddy is, in the normal case, if you have a person that you respect and you care for, you go to them individually. And if you're saying it's their decision, it's either their decision or it's not. And I'm not counseling that if we should have gone that way and maybe we still would have won or we would have lost. Nobody knows, because the future, all sorts of things can happen in these circumstances. But the thing that I'm upset about is that even today we have so-called centrist Democrats blaming progressives. Progressives, what's that? Are those the people that believe women have a right of dominion over their body? Are those the people that believe we should have a fair wage? Are those the people that believe we should have medical insurance? Are those the people that believe in retirement benefits and disability benefits? Are those the people that believe in negotiated peace and that Congress should have a say on those things? Is that a progressive or is that a liberal? And what is the centrist position for those things? Do the centrists embrace or ignore the fact of discrimination and racism, that people are unequal before the law? Explain to me that, and then I can understand why, one, you're doing something that's unnecessary, blaming progressives now, and two, not explaining yourself fully as to what you think. They choose incidents of things, like fixating how I refer to someone else. How you refer to someone else, sir, madam, Mr., whatever, is a sign of respect. It's a sign of recognizing the dignity of another person. And some of the spiritual and non-spiritual practices of different countries are doing exactly that. What is a handshake? What is a hug when you meet someone? Of the various ways you do it. And so if the centrist Democrats are against dignity and respect and so forth, where do we start the equation? The chaos of doing whatever I want to do is not a policy for a community to cooperate with itself and to be a beacon of freedom and courage for nation states across the world. So now Carville had a very interesting statement after the election. He said that Harris could never wash off the stench. You hear me? The stench. The policies that I'm talking about, he considers the stench, the stink. Well, if that's where the establishment Democrats were, then are they really Democrats? Is that what they believe? Is that their story? I think that what we have to do is go down to the nuclear level in a way and drop some of the broad statements and give some of the specifics. It doesn't have to be pages to explain it. A person who's working in a restaurant and gets tips, we're going to tax them or not? At what rate? Are they going to be required to be paid something, some minimum? Are they being paid the minimum wage? Should the minimum wage be more, given how things have changed? If we're not talking about these things, we're not talking about ourselves as a nation. If we're talking about becoming a kind of nation in which, by not taking care of the general welfare, we save the taxes that we would require of the wealthy, and so the wealthy pay less into a system. You can see how that is a declining spiral into a very difficult and tragic situation. It takes dystopia to the nth degree, dystopic on steroids, if you will. Anyhow, those are a couple of thoughts I have, and this is a little longer, so I don't know how long it'll take the bandwidth to get to you. So I say goodbye from the ship, and I expect I'll talk to you one more time tomorrow. Bye-bye.